Hey, what's up, you guys? Latin Films here, and today is the end of the Life of Brent and Pierson series. It's the last episode, if you might know, if you can tell by the title. So if you guys have been following my TikTok for a little bit now, then you'll know what I'm talking about. I made a series, and but if you aren't following me on TikTok, then I suggest that you go watch that TikTok video because or watch episode 1 on my TikTok because that's where it's released. And it'll make more sense to you in my perspective. But yeah, let's get into it straight away. Let's go. 3, 2, 1. Okay. Alright, let's go. So we start our story off with Brent, Pierson, and Brent Jr. living in their household together. They're all happy with their lives, and Brent's still a vlogger. He surpassed PewDiePie in subscribers. And Brent is so happy that he's actually helping Pierson cook and stuff and clean, because before he just focused on YouTube and stuff, and now he plays with Brent Jr. and Brent Jr. is already in school. He's already starting first grade. He's 6 years old. But then we cut to a scene with Blake. If you guys don't know who Blake is, that was okay. I'll explain it later. But Blake, he's at his home. He realizes that he's ready to attack Brent with a bunch of training for years, and that he says he's ready to get Pierson back, and nothing will get in his way. So then we cut to Laura's house, Brent's mom, and she's just reading her book. She's sad. Not sad. She just gets kind of lonely with her and her husband, and just only them in the house because the kids are out. They're all living their own lives. But then she hears a strange noise up above on the roof. So she tries to go investigate. But then Blake comes in and he tears down the walls and then he tries to attack Laura, but Laura hides behind the couch and he can't find her. So then he looks for Brent. He thinks he's still at his house, but he can't find Brent, so he just leaves. So then we cut to Brent and Pierson and Brent Jr. They're eating dinner, spaghetti, Brent's favorite food, spaghetti from Pierson. So yeah, and Brent Jr. is being all messy. He spilled his water, and Brent and Pierson say that's okay. They clean it up for him. But then all of a sudden, Brent hears a strange noise, loud thud hits on the ground. Brent is not going to investigate. He just thinks that it's just a slight earthquake since they live in California, and that earthquakes are usually very rare, and if there is ever one, then it's usually small. So he dismisses it as an earthquake. But then a few minutes later, he hears the door break, and it's Blake. And Blake says that he wants his Pierson back, and Brent says no, Pierson is his, and they're married already, and they have a kid. This pushes Blake all the way to the edge, knowing that they have a kid. And because Blake has felt a special connection to Pierson because they kissed before, so he felt a special connection to her because they kissed, and he actually felt like he was her actual boyfriend. So then he just tries to fight Brent. Brent tries to fight back, but Blake is too powerful. Blake just knocks Brent out, and then he takes Pierson and Brent Jr. And then they run off. Blake puts them in the back of the car, ties them up, and then he drives off. Brent can't believe what just happened. Brent just sits there and cries. The whole AMP squad comes over, and then they ask why he's crying and why the door is broken. And he says that Blake came in and that he stole his family. So the AMP squad says that they're gonna help him get his family back. And they ask why Blake was there in the first place, and why did he kidnap Pierson and Brent Jr. He says because apparently he felt a special connection to Pierson, and that he wants revenge on me. So then they get a bunch of weapons, and they say that they're not going to give up without a fight. And Lexi Rivera says, and I quote, that she shipped them all her life. Well, not all her life. Most of her life, and she's finally happy to see them married now, and she's not going to let this one opportunity be taken away from Brent. So they get weapons, knives, baseball bats. I'm sorry, and the machine gun and a bunch of that stuff. So and Brent is weaponless. He says he wants to just fight with his fist, and that before he had a kid and got married, he used to work out at the gym a lot, and he's not buff yet, but still, he's a pretty good fighter. So then they all march to his house, but it's too far, so they take Brent's car, And then, back at Blake's house, Pierson and Brent Jr. are all tied up, and they have nowhere, they have nothing, they don't know what to do. But Blake comes in to Pierson, and because Pierson is on the top floor and Brent Jr. is on the bottom floor. Blake comes up to Pierson and says to marry him, or else there'll be consequences. Pierson rejects and says no. And Blake gets so mad, and so he kicks Pierson's chair that she's tied in, and she falls over, and she can't get up. And he calls her the B word and says, "You'll learn next time." And then he leaves. He walks down the stairs. And later, the Amp Squad arrives at his house. They're trying to be sneaky so that no alarm, whatever he has, goes off. And they're trying to sneak up to the house, and they're like, "Okay, no loud noises," Ben says. And then they go into the house quietly. And they said, "Okay, we're going to split up." And so Brent goes upstairs to find Pierson, which he finds the right way. Ben, Lexi, and Andrew, they go through the halls, and Mason, Lexi Hensler, they go somewhere else around the house. They split up with their weapons, and they can't find Blake anywhere. But Brent finds Pierson. And he says, "Don't worry, I'm gonna get you out of here." But then Blake throws a blade at Brent, meaning to kill him, but it misses. And he says, "Leave Pierson alone, she's mine." But then Brent is having none of it. So he tries to fight Blake, and then Blake tries to fight him back, and Blake is too powerful, and he yells out to the Amp Squad, "Guys, I found him, help!" And then the whole Amp Squad comes running, and they try to fight Blake off, but the whole Amp Squad is getting defeated. It seems like they can't defeat Blake whatsoever. And they keep fighting, punch, kick, but nothing's working. So then it's up to Brent. The whole Amp Squad's down. They can barely get up. They're not dead, but they just can't get up. They can't even keep fighting anymore. So it's up to Brent now. He's the toughest one there now. So he has to fight off Blake. So then he fights Blake, and he continues punch kicking. Then Blake throws him out the window, and he's almost about to fall. But then Blake comes out the window and puts his foot on Brent's hand, and as if he's trying to make him fall, but it doesn't work because Brent pulls him down with his other foot, and then Blake comes falling down, and he falls off the roof, but apparently he survives. So Brent pulls himself up, goes downstairs to see how Blake is doing, and Blake is almost injured, but he can still fight because he's still so powerful. So then Brent kicks him right in the face, and then the whole Amp Squad comes out, and they say, "What's happening?" And he said that we're almost done defeating Blake, and that they're very close to. He's very close to getting his family back. And then Blake tries to fight Brent, punch kick once again, but then Brent throws a bomb at Blake. And then Brent tries to get away, but then Blake just throws the bomb back at them, and then Brent grabs the bomb, and it's up to him to bring the bomb back there. He sits on Blake's stomach and tries to make sure that the bomb explodes while he is there. And Pierson is already free. One of the Amp Squad members untied her, and she's like, "No, Brent, don't do this. I don't want to lose you." And she says, "This is for to save everyone, and that's the best for all of us." And he says he needs to make sure that Blake dies. So then the bomb explodes, and then we cut to black. A few days later, we have a funeral scene, and the whole Amp Squad's there. Lexi Hensler, Lexi Rivera, Ben Aslart, Pierson, Mason, Andrew, etc. And everyone's looking down at a grave. It's Brent's grave, Brent Rivera. And Brent Jr. is there hugging his mom's leg because of how short he is. And everyone has to go up on the stage and say something nice about Brent. And they do. But Pierson goes up and says a bunch of nice things like how he was one of the greatest, the first and the greatest husband he's ever had. There's no other husband that she would have had other than Brent. And that he was the bomb. And that he was very, very handsome. She was everything that she wanted from a man. And even though he pranked her a lot, she still loves him, even the day that they met. And then she steps down. And then a few hours later, after the funeral, they go back home to their neighborhood, And then everyone goes inside to their houses. Mason goes inside and says bye, have a good day. Andrew goes inside to say bye, have a good day. Ben goes inside, but Lexi stays back for a little bit, and she says, hey babe, you can go inside. I'm gonna talk to Pierson real quick. And Ben goes inside, and Pierson just stands there wondering what she's gonna say. Pierson says, well, what a day we had, huh? While stuttering. And Lexi said, yeah, this was one of the craziest days that we've ever had in a long time. And Pierson says, yeah, that's enough fighting for the day. And then while Lexi's about to walk back to her house, Pierson says, wait, maybe again sometime. And Lexi says, hopefully not, but you never know. And then Pierson walks back to her house with her son, Brent Jr., and then we cut to black. The end.